So I'd held off on making this movie because, frankly, I don't even know how to feel about it. Both Trainspotting movies are just so weird. I don't even know how to begin to analyze them. I mean, you can talk about the plot, I guess. The plot is kind of a mess. I mean, it's kind of a mixture of like a crack team film, like a heist film, an action movie, and like just all this other like weird stuff. Kind of like a trying to just I don't even know like what to compare them to. They're just really strange. I mean, they're British films, and British films are just kind of weird in general. Um, Quirky, I think, is a good way to put it. But yeah, I think one of the things I had with this film is it's very connected to the previous film more so than a lot of sequels I've seen, and that's to be expected, I guess. But a lot of times sequels kind of go over. They kind of say, well, maybe you didn't see the previous film in a while, especially when it's like 20 years later. Maybe we should like give a bit of an update as to what's going on. And I guess throughout the movie, I kind of gradually remembered the first one. But for a lot of the film, I didn't remember like any of these people. I'm like, who the hell are these guys? Like, I remembered Ewan McGregor's character, and I guess I remembered Spud, but most of them I just didn't. And I was just trying to recall the events of the first film. The first film was kind of interesting. I didn't like it very much, but it was probably a good movie. Just these really aren't for me. I only saw this because my friend Abstract really wanted to see it, and I guess I thought it might make for a good reaction review. But I don't even really know where to start. I'm not going to talk about the plot this time because the plot is just weird and complicated, and it's like I don't even think you can explain it because the plot's largely there to kind of put them into quirky situations and to have kind of gags. I don't even know what genre is this. It's kind of like black comedy, I guess, is the best way to describe it. So I think the train spotting movies are most interesting, not really because of the plot or characters. I'm sure a lot of people like them more than I do, but how they portray postmodern Britain, in particular postmodern Scotland. There's something I say that unironically postmodern Britain in movies looks like hell. Like if you've seen Kingsman: The Secret Service, I think the Tower is one of them, or the Citadel, which is in like Northern Ireland. Just anything that takes place in modern Britain, it looks like hell. Everything's just run down. Just the paint is curling. There's garbage everywhere. The buildings don't look like they've been maintained for the last like 30 years. If you ever see what a council house looks like, they look, oh my god. I knew a guy from, I guess, southern England, and he was showing me pictures he took. And it looks like a third world country. It's just horrific, the garbage and just human debris there. And not just in terms of how disgusting the landscape is, but the people as well. I gotta give this movie credit because it was kind of one of the last straws for me. I've always been in favor, pretty much, except for maybe a brief period, of keeping illegal drugs illegal. But when you watch something like this, you realize just how extremely cancerous drugs are. Um, Particularly in other in what tends to happen is in I mean drugs are in other cultures too, but it's especially bad, kind of relatively speaking, in white communities. So what'll happen is industry will move out. I have a friend who lives in Washington who told me about this. He's like, Argent, the industry's moved out of this area. It left a whole bunch of white people behind with no jobs who are on welfare, and they don't have religion. They don't have a purpose in life, so they just turn to drugs. So everyone here is taking meth. They're popping opiates, anything to make them forget how shitty their lives are. And that's what tends to happen in these postmodern, post-industrial wastelands. Sometimes it's rural areas, sometimes it's the suburbs, sometimes it's destroyed urban areas. And there's like a lot of reasons for this. Outsourcing is part of the problem. Bringing in cheap immigrant labor to do low skill jobs that kind of plebs would normally do is part of it. And bringing in expensive labor to do expensive jobs is part of it. You also have over credentialization where you need like 50 years of education to do every job, automation. There's like a laundry list of things in postmodernity that have made it difficult, especially for people who are basically plebs. And I don't use the term pleb in this case to really be negative. I mean, every society needs different castes, and maybe that's a bad term, or needs different classes of people. You need people who can build cars. You need people who can design the cars. You need the people who can invent the technology used to design the cars, like invent the engines and stuff. You need people who can sell the cars. You need people who can maintain the cars. There's all these different people who come together to make a product. Same thing with food. You need the farmer to grow the food. You need someone to process the food. You need a store to sell it. There's all this room in society for all these different roles, for people with different talents. There's nothing wrong with being a pleb. There's nothing wrong with not being smart enough, or not having the capacity, or not having the desire to go to university. Maybe that person doesn't want, I don't know, like to be a chemical engineer. Maybe they're happy just running a small store in their town. Maybe they're just happy, I don't know, being a mechanics actually make not bad money. I don't know. I can't think of a pleb job. That shows what an elite I am. Maybe they're just happy, I don't know, working at a bar or something like that, and they can get by, and maybe they can raise a family on that. I mean, you need those people too. I mean, you do need someone to serve you your fries and stuff, and that's an important service. Giving people, making food for people is important. Cleaning stuff is important. It may not be the most glamorous job, but if it didn't exist, then society wouldn't function. So, when I'm saying that, like, these people are plebs, they're plebs who don't have anything to do. And unlike maybe some smarter people who have nothing to do, like if I didn't have a job and I didn't have to work, well, I probably still would work, but I'd probably work fewer hours a week, like maybe 30 hours a week so I could sleep in. But let's say I just wasn't working for the rest of my life. I'd probably write. I'd still have my YouTube channel. I'd try to get some novels published. I'd read books like crazy. I might travel. I think maybe better educated or smarter people than plebs would kind of find something to do to keep them busy. But plebs are going to pleb, and if they don't have religion or a family structure or a community or a job to keep them in line, they tend to turn to stuff like drugs, prostitution, alcohol. And that's really what's happened in the town they live in. It looks like hell. There's just garbage everywhere. I think there's like a garbage dump or something. There's destroyed cars that are being crushed. All the local businesses have run down. One of the characters, Sick Boy, or Simon, I guess as he's called, is a cocaine addict who owns a failing bar. Everybody's just on welfare and government handouts because there's no local business, there's no local industry. It's just a devastated. It's just devastation. It's human debris, and I think this movie really shows it. It's just kind of, I think one of the funniest things is Spud, despite being someone with no job who hasn't had a job in years and is a heroin addict, he has an apartment somehow, and that apartment's bigger than pretty much anyone in Toronto would have, although it's run down and shitty. But yeah, he somehow is able to live in a big apartment in an apartment block that frankly looks like if hell had a condominium, that would be it. I mean, seriously, a lot of this movie just looks like Brazil, or it's disgusting and depressing. And this isn't like unique. This isn't just in this town. It's not just in Scotland. This is happening all across the Western world. This is what happened in the Rust Belt. The industry left, drugs came in, and you have these communities that are completely dysfunctional. And there's people with nothing to do. And I guess in America, there's still the stronger kind of conservative values. There's more religion stuff. There's more community. But in Europe, it's especially broken up. And what makes this worse is multiculturalism and mass immigration. Spud actually remarks at the end of the movie, I'm one of the few indigenous people left here. It's kind of funny because Mark tries to get his life together from the previous movie. Like, he stole some of the money, he goes to Amsterdam, he gets a bit more of an education, he gets married, and what winds up happening is his wife leaves him, presumably because she's, I don't know, a thought or something, and they automate his job. So he's basically screwed. He gets kicked out of the apartment by his wife, who takes everything, of course, and he like goes to Britain to try and fix his life. And fixing his life is trying to steal money from people with his friend to start a brothel. And that's probably would be the most successful business in this shitty town they live in. And that's just kind of what people have been driven to. They don't really have anything left there. It's and of course the girlfriend of the main guy is a the girlfriend of the main guy is a I'm just trying to think of his name, is Bulgarian. So yeah, so throughout the movie we just see, and especially they show some of the stuff going back in time, like what things used to be like. And it's just, you see this decay, this, it's just, the whole thing looks like an STD, the whole thing looks like a used heroin needle. And that's just kind of what the world's become. And they wind up, in kind of one of the more ironic parts, they wind up scamming the EU out of like $100,000 in a business loan, and the guy's like prostitute girlfriend winds up stealing the money and running to Bulgaria. So yeah, that's just kind. I think that's kind of how to describe Trainspotting too. I wasn't really talking about the plot, but I think if you want to watch either movie and you want to kind of see it as a really good example of what's kind of become of the modern plebs, what's kind of become of the people in flyover country, the people who used to do kind of all the basic stuff that kept society running, and just the effect of drugs on communities. I think that this is all a really good place to look at it, and a good place to start. So maybe I wouldn't say watch the movie in theaters. Watch it when it comes out, maybe on video if you want to. I can't really recommend this movie. I think the first one was a lot better. But like I said, it's just really not a film for me. It was kind of interesting to have watched it, but I would not watch it again. So that's the reaction review. I'll talk to you guys later.